Game day.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? You're on another episode of Chiefs Focus First and 10 Live with JP and Quentin on a very eventful day. How are you, my friend?
Well, football-wise, there's been a lot going on in the Kingdom and some of the discussions that are happening on Twitter. And I know that Twitter is not an accurate representation of either fan base, but you know the players are really laying it all out. The Bengals are. So.
Well, yeah, we got Burrowhead with one win in Arrowhead. I don't think he really understands how it works. I think he might have been hit too many times in that game because I really don't think he understands how this works. You have to have more than one win to call it, like we call it Arrowhead West. That's what we call Allegiant Stadium. Why? Because we beat them there constantly. It's common knowledge that we beat them there. But to say it's Burrowhead after one win at Arrowhead, they played us once at home, and they won by 3. So I'm kind of glad they're really cocky about it. I'm glad their fan base is cocky about it. In fact, I had somewhat of a boring day until this few of these Bengals fans chimed in on our timeline. I mean, it blew it up horribly, but Hyper for Stripes, I don't know what that is. I guess that's his name. He thinks there's absolutely no way that the Chiefs can win this game because they've beaten us before. Apparently he's very young, doesn't understand the game. But the comments have been really, I guess, comical. I don't know what else to say.
Bengals fans, Bengals players they're all cocky, and I mean, we'll see what happens on Sunday, and we'll talk more specifically about this game on Thursday, especially when we get more information about Mahomes coming into the Wednesday practice, Thursday practice, how much he participates. But the fact that Eli Apple just continues to, for somebody who's not that good of a corner, does talk a lot. It's one thing if someone like Richard Sherman does, because Richard Sherman was one of the best of his time frame, being on one of the best defenses the NFL has seen, a new kind of defense. I mean, Richard Sherman was, let's be honest, especially early in his career when he was in Seattle, was a lockdown corner.
Yeah.
And, he can talk smack because what else are you going to do? It's like Darrelle Revis can talk smack because when you literally get a position named after you, Revis Island, you can talk smack. Yeah. Eli Apple constantly gets burnt. Charvarius Ward is not talking smack.
No.
Because you can play the position, but bro, you're not that good.
No, he's like the illegitimate stepchild to Steven Nelson. I mean, he's not good. He's just a mouth. It's really all he is. He's got that. He's got a really cocky attitude because he is on a team that allows him to look better than he is. I'm actually really surprised, and a lot of Bengals fans that reached out to us, I think it was last year, they were actually surprised that they brought him back because he's so bad. But, I mean, when you're paying somebody minimal money to go out there and play the sport as a starter, you might as well just bring him back, I guess. But he's not good. As far as Mahomes is considered, everything I've heard up until this point is really good news. So I'm happy about that. It's been interesting, to go through this. The one thing I will say is this injury is not as bad as it was in 2019 when he got injured, his high ankle injury. And he is really adamant about making sure he's 100% when he comes in Sunday. So I do believe it was really painful during the game, but I think it was worse than I think it was a lot less worse than what they assumed. Everything I heard during the game, he was okay, and we actually put it out on Twitter. And then we talked about it after the game that, I think it was our Sunday night show, that he was working out on Sunday, and he's been working out since. So it's not, he's training, he's getting his ankle back to normal. I'm not really concerned with him. The only thing I'm really hoping for is that the second half defense shows up and stays there. That's what they have to do. They have to put pressure on Burrow, and they have to stick around for 60 minutes, which, to be quite honest, they haven't done, playing the Bengals for some reason. They allowed him back in the first game. We were up 24-0. They allowed him back in the second game, and now here we are, allowing him back in on the third game, really. So what's up, Russ? What's up? Who's that? Kaylee Productions, it looks like. I just don't, and I can't really take, I don't know about you, but I can't really take what they did in Buffalo and make it a genuine, the Buffalo beat themselves, I just put it that way. They didn't, it's not like they beat Buffalo. Buffalo beat themselves. They were playing really bad football. And I don't think it's fair to, either team, for that matter, how that game went down. Buffalo's had a really rough time this year. They regressed. There's no doubt about it. Yes, they had a good record. A lot of that was favorable as far as, who they played, strength of schedule, and also the fact that they lost Von Miller hurt their defense drastically. And look, Allen hasn't been 100% since week 5. So
no, and it came out that they're not doing surgery on his elbow. That they're just going to rest it over the off season. So, in terms of the Bengals, I think one thing that sort of gets lost in all this is that all 3 of these games have been by a field goal, right? These games have been extremely close, and you could point out, 1 or 2 points in every single one of these games where that was the moment that the Chiefs lost. Earlier this year, it was the Kelsey fumble, the Patrick Mahomes pass or interception, and when the Chiefs played, when the Chiefs played man coverage against Jamar Chase on what was it, like 3rd and 17 or 27,
17 or something crazy
and
number, yeah.
They were able to score on that drive. So I think that Burrow has gotten better at playing against zone coverage, so you're going to have to mix your coverages. I'm sure that I'm going to see all sorts of tweets blaming Spagnuolo's scheme, which I've had this conversation with multiple people now, that Spag scheme is not bad. Let's, hold the brakes. Yeah. And good teams are going to score. So there's a lot more going on in the NFL than just the Bengals and the Chiefs right now. And, and we'll talk about this game more in detail too later in the week. But there are some things that we need to address about just this stuff. I genuinely do think that most Bengals fans are not, annoying. So
I haven't met a whole lot of them. The ones that I've encountered on Twitter have been very annoying. But again,
that's Twitter.
So it's not really doesn't make a bunch of difference to me. But Russ, good news is that Mahomes is doing pretty well. Everything that I've heard is he's doing really good. So if that makes you feel any better, I hope it does. But it looks like he's doing everything he can to be 100% on Sunday. Now, whether he will be, I can't say that. But
I mean, there's no way he's going to be 100%. But no. 85% of Mahomes is better than every quarterback in the league. I mean, that's one-legged Mahomes is still, because we got to think about the kind of play that he has, right? Yes, his mobility is important, and if he needs to, he's going to be able to use it. But a lot of the credit we give to Mahomes for the stuff he's able to do is those arm angles and how he's able to flick the ball with his wrist and his upper body strength alone. He doesn't need to generate power from his lower legs, so he doesn't have to step into a lot of those stuff. So if Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to have a quality game. Plus, we've seen in the past that the last time he had a sprained ankle in 2019, the next day he came out, he threw for 4 touchdowns and 300 yards. So we know that he can
Actually, it was almost 400 yards that game.
Yeah, he can play. Yeah. He can play quality football, without having his full mobility.
Well, what that shows is that he can be a system quarterback. He can play within the pocket. He doesn't necessarily have to play backyard football. He can be a traditional quarterback if he has to and still win.
Andy Reid's given him credit on that this year too, because with an interview that he talked about with Chris Sims. He talked about how Patrick Mahomes has changed this year by becoming more of a pocket passer and how he's grown as a pocket passer. And this is a conversation that's happened all throughout Chiefs Kingdom the entire time he's been here, is that, he needs to get better at being in the pocket and taking the checkdowns. And that's something he's gotten better year after year here. So it's building up for him to be successful without having to depend on some of the freak athleticism of getting out of the pocket.
Yeah. Well, Russ, you don't have to worry so much about drop passes. We don't have Tyreek. Everybody else has been doing pretty good about catching everything for the most part this year, so we're in pretty good shape there. Scott, how you doing? I can't tell if that name is Kaylee or Kale. I don't really know, but he says he's got the Bengals because because the Bengals showed something, but we've never seen before. Not really. I mean,
look, they beat the shit out of the Bills, right? I mean, they did.
I can't say that they beat them, though. I got to say that, really, to be honest with you, I think the Bills beat themselves.
I think the Bills lost that game. I think there's some validity in your argument there, right? I think what happened is the Bills got down, and because of the way the Bills are built, it's Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and that's it. And so if you could take Stephon Diggs out of it, there's not a whole lot else on that Bills team. And if you look at the other power, really everybody else left in the playoffs, the part of the way to build a team now, right, is to have multiple weapons, multiple stars. All four of these teams left, and in this championship weekend, 49ers, Eagles, Chiefs, Bengals, all of them have multiple stars on the team. The Bills just don't have that. They have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. I will give credit to the Bengals. The Bengals did beat them. They beat the shit out of the Bills. I'm not taking anything away from the Bengals by saying that. But I just don't think that the Bills are built to beat a team like the Bengals either. And that'll be interesting to see how the Bills go forward building their team back up, because they need to find another weapon for Josh Allen, whether that comes in the draft or, free agents. But we've had this conversation before where there's not a lot going on in the wide receiver free agent market this offseason. It's why I'm surprised that really it only seemed like the media was hyping up OBJ going to Buffalo and not the Bills themselves, just because I feel like they needed something else to that offense. Yeah. There was just nothing else besides Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen in that offense. They don't even have a run game. Every single other one of the teams left in the playoffs has a run game, despite the fact that we're in a passing league right now.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Burrow. He's a good quarterback. He's arrogant, but he's a good quarterback.
Yeah, he's the second best quarterback in the league.
He is, and there's no doubt that he's the second best quarterback in the league, but everybody has to put that emphasis on second, because again, like you said, 85% of Mahomes is, better than 100% of every other quarterback in the league. So, and then that's proven facts. That's not anything that's, just it's not homerism. It's not anything. It's truth. He in his first 5 years, he's been to 2 Super Bowls, 5 AFC Championship games, thrown for 5,000 plus yards twice, 50 touchdowns, 41 touchdowns. He's the best quarterback in the league. And in another week he'll win another MVP. Yeah, in another week he's got another MVP. And everybody says, well, Burrow hurt his knee. Well, so did Mahomes. Mahomes' knee shifted 4 inches off his where it should have been. His kneecap did. But yet he played 2 weeks later. He's had 2 high ankle sprains. And he's, the first one, again, like you said, 400 yards and almost 400, or 4 touchdowns and almost 400 yards of offense against a very good defense. So, it just, a lot of it has to do with scheme and coaching and actually just making adjustments. That's something that, last year we didn't do. We made no adjustments in the second half, and that killed us, especially when we were up on them 21-0. And this year we had 5 rookies on defense that really had no clue when we played them. And now these guys have really stepped up. The defensive line is the toughest defensive line I guarantee you the Bengals have faced all year.
Yeah, that's a great point. The Bills were not able to get pressure on Burrow, and that I think is something that the Chiefs can do. Yeah. Frank Clark, playoff Frank is back because for some reason when it comes to the playoffs, he seems to turn it up. Chris Jones had a career year, and the last time we faced the Bengals, Karlaftis was not where he is now.
No.
So I think that the Chiefs, there's a real reason to believe the Chiefs are going to be able to put pressure on Burrow with just 4. Now, whether they sack him or not is different because, he's a very shifty guy in the pocket, and he does a great job avoiding sacks. Granted, he's had a lot of practice with it, with how crappy that O-line is, but he's really good at avoiding taking those big hits and taking those sacks.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't take a lot of big sacks that, put guys behind the chain, put them behind the chains. So I do think that the Chiefs are going to be able to get pressure on him. Getting home, I'm not sure, but just getting pressure on any quarterback is beneficial to you because you may, force him to throw the ball out of bounds instead of trying to hit a tight window, down the middle of the field.
I agree. And also, when you really think about it, the Chiefs have played much better O-lines this year, especially in the last 6 weeks of the season, than the Bengals are by far. And they've had 5 sacks, 6 sacks, 4 sacks. What's up, Philip? And I think they'll continue to do this. I think it's going to be, this is more of a revenge game, I think, than anything. These guys all have it in their mind that they should have been in the Super Bowl last year. They know they should have been. And when you lose by 3 to the same team 3 times, it makes it difficult. If it was more than that, or if they actually blew us out, which they have never done, then it's a different story. But it's a 3-point game. Oh well, things have changed. This is a different football team. They got worse because they lost. They spent $60 million or more on their offensive line just to lose the 3 offensive linemen they brought in. They haven't played a defensive line like ours yet. And I think once they see it, it's going to be a rough ride for those guys.
And I think them losing their guard this is the first week that it's really going to impact them. It's easy to replace a guard. Easier, I should say. I shouldn't say it's easy. No position is easy in football. But it's easier to replace a guard because you can shift help over there, more easily. The pass blocking is not as complicated. You don't have to be athletic to play the guard position just because you don't have to do any of those serious kick-out blocks that tackles have to do. So it's easier to replace guards. The problem is for the Bengals is you have this other guy who goes by the name Chris Jones and had 15 sacks this year and is continuing to maul people. So you need quality guard play and center play in order to stop Chris Jones, or to just slow him down. And to have, an unproven commodity at the guard position when you're going up against Chris Jones, I don't know how that's going to work out for you.
I don't either, especially when you have Carlos Dunlap on the other side that has batted a ball down at least 1 in every game he's been in this year. And that's a statistic that's actually true. He has been a force since he's been on this team. He's also helped Karlaftis get better. So is Frank Clark, for that matter. Frank Clark is a beast in the playoffs. He just is.
Last year he was third in the NFL history in playoff sacks.
Yeah.
He's like third or fourth or third, something like that. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. And the fact is that last year people don't really take into consideration that he was sick during the playoffs. I mean, his stomach issues were really acting up for him, and it didn't help his game. And he still had a good playoff run, but it just wasn't as strong as it normally is. This year, he has a fire in him. He's got a look in his eye that scares me a little bit. I know I'd be scared of him. Hell, we interviewed him. He's the nicest guy in the world until he gets on the field. Then he's a different animal. So I think with the combination of everybody, and then Saunders that has turned it up 60 notches, every time he's on the field. I don't know, man. It's going to be difficult for those guys. And the fact, here's a funny thing that I noticed today, and some people had a different take on it, but I know why they picked him up. We let go of Chris Lamons because of his legal issues. That's why. He was here yesterday at court because of this situation with Alvin Kamara. We released him the same day. The Bengals picked him up immediately off of waivers because...
Oh, to try to get information out of him.
They want to get information out of him. That tells you that they're worried. Well, here's the difference.
I just think that means they're doing their due diligence. Why would you not?
Okay, well, why would you, though? Why would you pick up a special teams player that, if you knew anything about football at all, especially Andy Reid's system, I can tell you right now that Andy Reid does not give the entire playbook to all of these players, especially special team guys. What he does is he gives them plays that they're going to play the next week, and he usually gives them to them on Wednesday. Well, Lamons didn't make it to Wednesday. He didn't make it to Monday. He has no information. He has nothing to. There's absolutely nothing he can give them playing 19 snaps total during the regular season on defense, and playing special teams. And the fact that, one, if they do get information out of him, it's illegal because he's on a tender that he can't come in until after the Super Bowl. He's not even supposed to be in the facility or talk to them. So, if it comes to if they find out that he has, that's a problem for him. But again, he has absolutely nothing that's going to benefit them. He doesn't know the play calls. He doesn't know what the offense calls. He has no clue. He has no clue. So, and if they think for 1 second that Andy's not changing up the play calls and the way that they line up, they're nuts. This game is going to be totally different than what they played last week, the week before, and the week before that. Because every game is different for us. The play calls are different. To me, I think it was just... If he was an offensive player that had been here for 2 or 3 years, smart move. But a special teams guy that has absolutely no access to our playbook, especially the offensive playbook, they wasted their money and time. And I guarantee you this much. He probably won't be there after this week.
Yeah, you're one game away from the Super Bowl. You're going to do whatever you can to try and get an edge. So yeah, I'm not faulting anybody at that. And you say a waste of money. What is it, like $60,000 to pick him off waivers?
I don't know whatever his remaining balance was of his contract, which I don't know how much that was. I haven't looked, but I think it's more than $60,000. But
anyways, it's couch cushion money to an NFL organization.
Depending on their cap space, yeah. But looking at the Bengals, I think they, and especially who they kept on some of their defense, they probably do have some room in their cap. They're paying Eli Apple, so it can't be much. The Steven Nelson of, football, his little illegitimate child. But I don't know. I guess the whole Burrowhead thing has got me just laughing, though. I still haven't stopped laughing about that.
We'll see. It's really going to come. You come to Kansas City for the second time. Look, there's a reason why the Chiefs have hosted this for 5 straight years. It's because Kansas City's a better team. They've played better over this time frame. But when you've got a matchup, we'll see what happens on Sunday. It's the Sunday night slot, so I'd prefer to just have it the first. I liked having the first games, just
wait a minute,
be able to get them. But
did we just have a Bengals fan in the group chat?
I don't know.
It looks like it. I want to know something, if you're actually still in here. What excuse are you guys going to use if we win this week? Is it going to be the refs? Is it going to be what? Because...
don't even start with refs.
Oh, I have
We haven't even got to talk about Carl Sheffers in the Super Bowl.
Well, I have to know because... all these fans are so adamant about them beating us because they beat us before. So if they lose with Mahomes' gimpy leg, as everybody said, he's coming off a high ankle injury. I heard that 65 times on Twitter today. What is going to be your excuse if we win this game? Why did you lose the game? Especially if we win by more than a touchdown. Because you've never beaten us by more than 3 points. So... what happens if we beat you guys, say, 31-17? Or even just say 25-17 because the Chiefs averaged 36 points a game at home. What's going to happen if that actually breaks down? How are you guys going to react to that? Is it going to humble you, or is it going to make you worse than you already are? Just curious. If you're still there, I'd like to know. Anyway, Carl Sheffer's in the
I think this shows how bad NFL officiating has become because there's a system in which they use to, get NFL refs to the Super Bowl. They use a ranking system that every week, supposedly, anyways, the NFL charts good calls and bad calls by refs, and then by the end of the year for the playoffs, they're choosing guys based on how well they did during the regular season. I think the fact that Carl Sheffers was quoted as the best says that the NFL needs to really rework how they train and how they get in new officiating crews, because I think that seems to be the biggest issue. I know how they could help fix the issue is they could pay full-time employees and in order to do the officiating, and they can try to get younger at the position to try and make sure that they have better quality refs, as well as taking away some of the really stringent rules, like the roughing the passer, to laying off some of those rules. These things would improve the NFL officiating scene. Getting something like a sky judge in there as well. I know that over the weekend, doing that, I don't remember what they called it. When they had the extradited review process, that was awesome.
Yeah, and they need to do that in the regular season as well as the
100%. 100%. That was great. I don't know. You figured that's how the NFL wants its officiating to work all the time. It was awesome. It was
then they would have to spend more money than they don't want to spend. If you really want to know the truth, that's what it is.
Oh, obviously. It's obviously a money issue. That's why they don't want to have full-time employees. But if Carl Sheffers is your best, if you believe he is your best, then you have a problem. Yeah. And having that extradited review process was awesome, because you're like, I don't know if that pass was incomplete or not. They're going to call it, they'll call it incomplete. Instead of forcing coach's challenge and then going to commercial break and then us debating it on our couch, they can just say, nope, pass was incomplete, pass was a catch. We're moving on. We're not wasting any time. That was awesome.
Phillips says real quick, he said Spags needs to force Joe Burrow into a high number of checkdowns, dump-off throws, and quick passes. You're right, he does. Burrow can't get out and throw some deep passes, which, to be honest with you, in that last game, we pretty much did. I think there was only a couple of passes over 20 yards in that last game, that meeting we had with them. I got to give it to a couple of our rookie corners that were out there. And, in fact, if you remember, during that game, we had no McDuffie.
We also didn't have a Joe Tooney, which was
we had no Joe Tooney. We had no. I was trying to figure out who all was missing in that game. It was Tooney, McDuffie, Clark, and one other one.
What week was that?
Who it was. Like week 3 or 4. It was early in the season.
Was it early in the season?
Yeah, it was pretty early in the season. So we got players coming back that we didn't have during that week, all on defense for that matter, and one offensive player, which was a huge impact. So
getting back possibly the best left guard in the NFL and Joe Tooney is huge, because you're going to need to solidify your offensive line even more than you did last time, and having the best left guard in the game next to the second best center is going to be very helpful.
Oh yeah, he's right. We didn't have Tony either, and we didn't have Hardman in that game.
Oh, Tony, yeah.
Now I don't know if. Look, man, I still don't think Hardman's going to play this week. That's just my opinion, but that's right. McDuffie was in that game. Who was it that we hadn't seen? Watson. That's who it was. We hadn't seen Watson yet. That's who it was. Watson wasn't in the game. It wasn't McDuffie. It was Watson. Was it? I can't remember if McDuffie got hurt in that game or the week after. But anyway, we didn't have any of those guys, and this is different. It's different now. So, But anyway, getting back to these refs. Look, Carl Sheffers hasn't called a good game all season until last weekend. until this just past weekend. He still called a shitty game, don't get me wrong. He sucks in every imaginable way when it comes to being a ref. But I will say this. The expedited review shut his ass down because they challenged it numerous times as well. I think there was 3 challenges in that game that he lost, that Sheffers lost. Shitty calls. He's a shit referee. I'm sorry. He's terrible. He's got a thing for Kansas City anyway. He fucking hates us. I mean, it is what it is. And, you know, the only... Look, I can tell you right now, he was picked for that divisional round because he sure as fuck didn't want to come to Kansas City. Hell no. He don't want to come back to Kansas City. Motherfucker had to leave at armed guards. You think he's going to come back? Hell no, he's not.
There's no foul on the play for blocking the back. Timeout.
Yeah. So, if that's their, which it is, the way they decided to pick, which I think is a lie, but if this is the way they decided to pick this referee crew for the Super Bowl, I don't believe it a bit. I think that it's a neutral ground, and there's such a good possibility that the Chiefs win this game. This would be a good game to him to get back into with the Chiefs. That's what I feel. They could have easily put his crew with the NFC side, but they didn't do that. So this is just drama bullshit with the NFL, in my opinion. Yeah, he said McDuffie missed week 2 through 8 and came back week 9. So he wasn't in the Cincinnati game. What week did we play Cincinnati?
I thought we played them later in the.
I thought it was earlier.
Season.
I thought it was closer to the Bills game, but I could be wrong. I can't remember now. It's been a while, but apparently that Bengals fan left the group left the chat when he got smacked down a little bit. We played in week 13. Is what he's saying. So week 13. So it's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That's 7 games ago. So we'll see how this game turns out. I don't see nearly the game that they had last time. This time, I don't even see them scoring as much. I don't see them putting 27 up. I don't see it. So we're going to have to go with that. But that's right. Brian Cook, hi, Will. You're right. Brian Cook did not play in that game versus the Bengals. I'm almost positive he didn't. There was 3 or 4 guys that didn't see the field that we have used or that have been in the game since and have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I don't see this game going nearly as easy as the Bengals fans think it's going to go. Yeah, that's right. It was McDuffie. I remember that now. McDuffie shut him down. He did a really good job of shutting him down. Chase didn't know what to do. He was pretty frustrated during that game because he had a rookie making him look really friggin' stupid. So I'll go along with... Philip is the most knowledgeable guy and remembers everything like nobody's business. So I'm going to go with what he said on that. But we didn't have Watson. I'm pretty positive we didn't have... not Watson, but... who was it? Brian Cook in that game. So we got to see who all shows up, who's inactive, and who they fill the spot of Lamone's with, which that's something else we need to get into really quick. Everybody keeps saying Clyde. I don't think so. Clyde's not a special teamer. I think it's going to be Jody Fortson. He's back, he's ready to play, and he's great. And you can put him in on the offense.
Yeah, and you pulled him and Clyde off of the IR at the same time. I think that's a pretty good call because, if you have Fortson on the field, you can run more of your 3 tight end sets. And what that means is you're more than likely to keep in one of those tight ends to block, but you can still let 2 of those guys go out and pass to run routes. And you can sort of confuse the defense because you don't exactly know who's staying and who's going. So I think that's a good call. Plus, we know, Jody Fortson will end with his perfect 1 yard, 1 catch, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, Joshua Williams played more snaps. This time, Jalen Watson has to hold his own against. That's true. And look, I think Watson can. He's really matured over this last 6-7 games. He's done really well. I think he has had his moments, during the season that everybody said, "Oh God, wow, he's great. Oh God, what happened?" It was one of those things early in the year that rookie mistakes, things of that nature, you're going to have those. But I can't say enough about all of the rookies that we have on our defense that have really stepped up and have gelled so well over these last 7 games. They started doing better actually about week 9, and they just kept growing and growing and growing. And it just, man, I mean, yeah, Juan Thornhill's playing big. Justin Reed's doing pretty well. I don't know. I think the biggest thing we have to do is throw exotic packages out there in schemes against Burrow, something that he's not seen before. Keep pressure on him, and he will fall. He will not be able to. Yes, now here's something that everybody has to think about. He has had to become accustomed to getting rid of the ball very quickly. He releases the ball around 2.36 seconds is his average. And that's something that people have to take into consideration because our secondary has to keep everybody in check as far as the wide receivers, tight ends, everybody in check because that makes him hold on to the ball longer and gives us enough time to get back there and disrupt him. So that's something that we have to make sure we do. Between our safeties, from linebackers on, they really need to do that. They have to make sure that they keep these wide receivers and everybody in check. And I think they will. They've done a really good job of it over the last, really, 8 games. Can't complain about it. I don't know about you, but I think they're doing really well. So
I think this game's going to come down to, I think funny enough, I think it's going to come down to stopping the run for the Bengals. The Chiefs need to be able to stop P. Ryan and Mixon because if you look at the Bills game, the Bengals were able to run the ball effectively, and they were able to, then pass out of some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And they were able to bleed a lot of clock. I was criticizing the Bengals for, doing quarterback sneaks on 2nd and 2 or a 3rd, instead of trying to pass the ball down the field and then, but they were bleeding the clock. They got up by 14 fast, and then they were bleeding the clock the entire game.
That's what they're famous for.
And so if the Chiefs are going to, stay in this game, right, you got to make sure you keep you keep the Bengals from having those 10, 11 play drives that end in touchdowns. You got to make sure that you keep them out of 3rd and 3. You keep them behind the sticks. Hitting that, stopping the run game is going to really be key early because if you get into a shootout, then I feel more comfortable with our defense playing just pass defense instead of trying to play both the run and the pass because we have good corners, we have a good pass rush, and if we can dedicate our linebacker play or our safety play into coverage instead of trying to stop both the run and the pass, then I think you have a better chance of slowing the Bengals offense down. And that's what you're going to have to do. You can't stop the Bengals offense, just like you can't stop the Chiefs offense and you can't stop the Eagles offense, right? You can only slow them down. And when you slow them down, you take advantage of it. Yeah. That's how we're to the point in the season that's how it is. You're not nobody's stopping anybody, okay? This isn't 2000. There's no 2000s Ravens defense anymore, okay? Teams are going to go and they're going to score their points. You just need to make sure that when you do stop them, you whether you force a turnover or you pin them back and you force them to punt the ball to win the field position battle. A lot of these things that you're hearing coaching says at this point of the year, that's when this really matters. And I know it doesn't seem to add a lot to the conversation by me saying that, but I truly think that that's how you win a game like this.
Also, you have to, and we've done a really good job of this, but you also have to make sure that you minimize on penalties. Because those deep penalties will cost you. Now, getting to the Bengals really quick, they absolutely bleed clock better than anybody I've ever seen. In fact, that's how they won the last game against us. They bled the clock. Look, because of the two major mistakes, the one, Kelsey dropping the touchdown, and then 2, Mahomes throwing the interception, They still only won by 3 points. That's because they bled the shit out of the clock. We didn't have the run defense that we have right now. We have stopped pretty much everybody. Mixon, I don't even think he got 100 yards in that game on the ground. I don't even know if they got 100 yards of running offense on the ground against us, but it was there when it counted. And I think that's what makes the difference.
It's a lot like our run game.
Yeah. And look, for all intents and purposes, Pacheco wasn't the runner then that he is now.
That's absolutely true.
So the guy's he's following his blockers. He's opening lanes. He's getting skinny when he needs to. And when he breaks one, he breaks one. And that's what we need. I mean, we don't need Clyde on the field. We need Jody on the field that can play special teams and offense. Because, look, he's a hard man to bring down. And when he's got his hands on the ball, he will throw your ass in the stands to make sure he holds on to it. I mean, he's insanely strong. And he's determined. I wish he wasn't so damn injury prone. I really do. Because I've been a fan of his since his first preseason game. I was actually a fan of his in training camp. When I first saw him in training camp, I went, oh my God, this guy is going to be so good. And then it's kind of crazy because we had talked about it, I think it was in March of last year, and I had heard that they were going to, actually prior to that in February, I said they ought to hybrid him and make him, slash wide receiver / tight end. And then in March, we find out that that's what they were doing. And we were the first ones to break it on this show. And it was great because they actually turned him into a hybrid player. He's fast. He's elusive. He runs great routes. And he can play special teams. And he could be that lead guy. He could take Lamone's spot. So I'm not really... I'm not concerned with it. I think that's who they're going to bring up. The one person that was brought up to me, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, was Danny Shelton being brought up because of Mixon and everybody. I don't know if that's necessarily needed at this point, especially in a championship game and he hasn't played all season. I don't know. I mean, the guy does take up 2 roster spots. He's a monster. But I think I don't know if he's going to be, he can't play special teams, and we need special teams. We have the run stoppers. Not worried about that. I mean, really not worried about that. So it's just a matter of executing and keeping the pressure on Burrow because, again, you disrupt him, he's not going to have anybody to throw to. So, what did he say? Eli started for 2 years? What the fuck? I don't even know what the fuck that dude's talking about. Anyway, it's going to be a matter of just going out there and playing fundamental football. They have never beat us by any margin of anything. Their clock management is phenomenal. I will give Cincinnati that because they will run the clock down on you. And that's what they can't beat you head up. They will run the clock down on you.
Look, I was never going to come on the show and just shit talk the Bengals because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to give you my honest opinion. And I think the Bengals deserve to be in the championship game.
They do.
I really do think that this might be the best championship weekend we've had in at least recent memory. Because I do think that these are the 4 best teams in the NFL. I think all 4 of these teams in a Super Bowl matchup, I think across the board, it's probably even money, right? I think anybody of these 4 teams can get any of these 4 teams, no matter what combination you have heading into the Super Bowl. And
let me ask you this, though. Looking at last year's Super Bowl and how it ended up with the stomping that went on, do you think anything's changed? Do you think that they've improved? Because they started off the season really bad. And then they picked up their slack as far as the Bengals are concerned. Similar to kind of how they started last year. They started off pretty bad, and then they picked up the slack, and then, it was kind of one of those things. Strength of schedule plays a huge part in everybody's game. It's similar to what we've talked about in the past. They say that this guy... Look, we have played more top 3 defenses this year than any 17-week football team has. I mean, think about it. We played San Francisco, number 1. We played Denver, supposedly top 3. We played Who else, Quentin? Come on, give me some names.
The Buccaneers were top when we
5.
faced them.
There was another one.
The Bills. The Bills when we were facing them.
Yeah, they were supposed to be top 2.
We basically played the Broncos back to back with their defense too.
So how is it that that's the part of when it comes to rankings and statistics, they're different. Because you can have great stats if your schedule is weak. But if you have if you have a strong schedule and you're still doing that, that's a different story. But that's not what we're looking at. Last year, in fact, everybody knows that the Bengals had one of the weakest schedules in football. I think it was ranked 28th weakest schedule in football. And this year wasn't any much better. We had actually the top 2 toughest schedule this year with a bunch of new guys. And Mahomes, again, 5,250 yards, 41 touchdowns, MVP, twice in 5 years, 2 Super Bowl runs. And what a lot of people don't realize is that those Super Bowl runs, we had the 28th ranked defense and the 29th or 30th ranked defense in 2020 going into it. So we did all of that with worse defenses than actually every team in the NFL except for one. So nobody can deny that Mahomes and this team is better than everybody else. I mean, he's made average wide receivers look great. It's that simple. This game's going to come down to execution and defense for the Chiefs because we can score the points on them. We've done it in the past. That I'm not worried about. It's holding the points that I'm still not worried about it now compared to what I was in week 13 or even last year because we didn't have this defense then. We didn't have the top 4th sack team in football. We didn't have the number 1 team batting down balls as far as batted passes. We didn't have the run game, the run D that we have right now. We didn't have the pass rush we have right now. And our secondary definitely wasn't gelling the way it was 7 weeks ago. That's my whole point behind all of this.
I think that, this is I think the Chiefs are a better team now than they were earlier in the year. I think this is true. I think it was Justin Reed. I think it was Justin Reed or Juan Thornhill. Someone said, I really wish I could remember which one it said, but a few weeks ago they said that, these rookie corners are no longer rookies. They're 1-year players.
Yeah.
Right? You've played an entire year of football, and you're now a veteran. You've seen, what all these teams have been trying to do to you all year, and they're better now. And, we'll just have to wait and see when more information comes out later in the week. I do have some other stuff that I want to talk about in the football world, but I don't have anything else really to add to this with all the information we have right now and just, with that game going on. I do think it's an exciting Sunday of football. I do think that. I think both of these games are going to be great. And I think the Eagles and 49ers game, you've got 2 teams that are built somehow like the same but different. They're both got very good run schemes. The Eagles are built more around their quarterback, whereas the 49ers are not. The 49ers still have a really good defense in terms of they've got some big names on the offensive side, and I think that the Eagles are, just as talented but don't have a lot of the big names on there. So I think that's going to be a good game. And then, the offseason comes around for a lot of these teams. There's some news coming out that the Patriots are going to hire Billy O'Brien for their offensive coordinator job and take him away from Alabama, which I think is a good move by the Patriots just because you can't have a special teams coordinator and a defensive coordinator be your offensive coordinator. Like, you can't do that. And so to get Bill O'Brien back in the room. Look, I know we give a lot of shit to Bill O'Brien, but a lot of that was because of his GM decisions and not his coaching decisions.
Correct.
Bill O'Brien is the best, Bill Belichick coaching tree guy in all of the guys that have left New England. He's like the one success story. Yeah. And he was, he was a guy that was able to get a lot out of that Texans offense. So, bring him back to New England. I believe he was the OC at Alabama. So to bring him back into the NFL, bring him back in New England, I think is a good move for them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. And they need to. I mean, look, you got a defensive coordinator that's been calling offensive plays all year. He was a shit head coach.
And that was he wears a pencil despite the fact he has a laminated piece of paper.
Exactly. I mean, it tells you a lot. It was very strange to me. I never understood that one, but whatever.
I didn't understand it either. And at first, I never really thought about that until you like actually see that it's now. If it was an expo marker, like I get it, but all of the coaching playbooks are laminated on the sidelines, and you can see it when the light glares off of it. That pencil's not doing any. I've never seen you have some sticky notes. Nothing. You got your number 2 pencil and your laminated paper.
Yeah, I'm getting text right now from I'm not going to say who it is, but it's a sports reporter right now, and he's asking me questions about Mahomes because they can't really get very much information. So, anyway,
well, tell him you're working.
I did. I let him know. I told him I'd call him afterwards. Whoever this Danny guy is. I mean, I'm sorry, you're kind of dumb. You're making comments that really make zero sense. Nothing of what you said makes sense. We're not going to fire a 4-time Super Bowl defensive coordinator, and we're definitely not going to. Mahomes doesn't run around with a chicken with his head cut off because he is better than your quarterback. And he can make moves that your quarterback would never be able to make. With that being said, moving on. There's a lot of coaching moves going on right now.
There's a lot of coordinator jobs open right now, and I don't know if this is just because I've paid more attention to it this year, or if it's just weird that there are obviously every year about 4 head coaching jobs always become available. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's that there are you get that you have those 5 head coaching jobs open. But then there's also a lot of teams that are getting rid of their coordinators on top of their instead of their head coach too. So you've got 4 spots because the head coach is gone, but now you're having a couple here because the front office head coach stayed, but the offensive coordinator was the fall guy.
Well, that's how Staley saved his job with the Chargers because he basically convinced their front office. Well, he's a yes man, and that's what they wanted forever, but. He says yes to players that shouldn't be playing, and they do anyway. But he saved his ass by doing that. He blamed it on the offensive coordinator. He blamed it on the defensive coordinator. He blamed it on the water boy, everybody else to keep his job. That's a really big part of what's going on this year. The Raiders are retooling with a lot of their coaches. From what I understand, they're doing basically I don't want to say fire sale because they've already done that, but they're going to retool their entire defense and basically bring in a lot of people from the draft. And they're going to dump a lot of players. I mean, if you're going to redo it, you might as well just do it with fresh legs. As long as you got the draft picks and you actually draft correctly, you can do that. I don't know if they can. They haven't proved it thus far that they can draft that well. And the few players that they did draft that were really good prior to Josh McDaniels, he let them all go, including Leatherwood. So there's going to be no Josh Jacobs there next year. I can almost guarantee you that.
Well, what have we been talking about the Raiders for the past, 3-4 years? We've talked about how bad their secondary is.
Yeah.
And that you've got a lot of talent. That defensive line has always had talent on. Max Crosby, that guy that they got there this year from Arizona. I'm forgetting his name. But they had talent along that defensive line. It's always been that secondary. And when you have, Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes in your division and then all the other guys that you're coming up against, you have to be able to stop the pass, and they haven't been able to do it. So, I'm sure that whatever they do, it can't get much worse than what it actually was.
It's going to have to come down to this. They can bring in talent because, look, if you're drafted by more than one team, then usually you have talent in the NFL. It's that simple. If more than one team is interested in you, you have talent. The difference is are you going to be the head coach that can actually facilitate that talent and groom that talent into an NFL player, or are you going to be the guy that McDaniels looks like right now, that launched everybody that was good, lost a shit ton of money, and is now going to rebuild again? 2 years. I mean, this is going to be a 2-year rebuild for him, and he lost his starting quarterback. He's going to go, and now I don't know whether if he's planning on sticking with that quarterback that he let play out the last 2.
Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, Stidham. He may do that just because that was part of his game plan to keep his job, but he's got to make a decision there too. You have to have the coaching staff to be able to groom young players, and if you don't have that, I don't care who the hell you bring in, it's not going to make a bit of difference. It's really not going to. It's not going to benefit anyone. And right now, I don't think McDaniels has that in him. When it comes to offense, maybe so. Maybe he has that talent. I don't know if that was him, because look, everybody prior to him succeeded during the Belichick years. So I don't know that it was him, and especially after his tenure with the Broncos and how shitty they were, with a really good quarterback that he screwed up, then got fired for cheating again. But I don't know if he's that coach. I just don't know. And right now, I bet he's wishing that he never took that job. I bet he's just wishing he never took that job.
I don't know. He'll get that he'll get that paycheck, and I'm sure it's nice.
I don't even know what he's making, but
I don't know what he's making, but it's more than being an offensive coordinator under Bill Belichick.
It may be, but in the same aspect, if you look like total shit, you're never going to get another head coaching shot again. This is his second shot in a 12. So he was with the Broncos in 2010. So he got picked up in 22. So that's a 12-year span before he became a head coach again.
And a lot of guys
this up,
don't even get 2 shots.
No. So if he screws this one up, he's out. He's done as any head coaching spot. There's no way. But regardless, there's one guy got called back to the Texans for the second interview today. I can't remember who it is right now. Kafka's been called in for 4 interviews as head coach for 4 different teams.
That's crazy. It's crazy to think he was a quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, now has the potential to be a head coach.
Well, look what he's done, though.
He has. I was getting to that. Quarterback coach to go under Mahomes to go to New England or to the Giants and to be as effective as he was there, because him and Daboll turned around Daniel Jones. Right, he had a career year, and now to go somewhere else and be able to take some of that knowledge you've acquired over the last few years and to be a head coach. I think that there's a lot going there. Speaking of the Giants, I think that Daniel Jones is going to be their quarterback going forward. I think they're going to give him a contract, and I think they're going to franchise tag Saquon Barkley.
If they give Daniel Jones a contract with the amount of talent that's in this league, I think it's a mistake. I'm not saying he's not talented. I just don't think he's the guy that's going to get you over the hump. He did really well this year for the most part, but he had a lot of talent around him, and he had a great coach that helped with the acquisition and with those wins. I don't think he's the guy that can get you over the hump. There's too many talented quarterbacks out there right now that need a job. Jimmy Garoppolo, even Derek Carr, as much as I don't like him, he's more talented than Daniel Jones. There's just too many guys out there. And look, man, nobody knows what's going to happen to Aaron Rodgers this year. I mean, for Christ's sake, this guy, who knows? He doesn't care about that contract. He doesn't care about that extra $50 million. I'm telling you, he doesn't. If they're going to go into rebuild mode, he's going to walk. That I can promise you. He made that extremely clear, and he's not one to back away from that. He doesn't care about the $50 million. He cares about winning. And right now, it's really put a cramp in his whole, basically his desire to play the game. Yeah. I mean, when you do that to a quarterback, and it almost seems intentional, it's time to walk away. And I think he should have walked away 3 years ago. I don't think he should have signed this contract. But he had other teams that were willing to offer him just as much. And he stayed there. And I don't know what the deal was with that. Maybe it was being comfortable Maybe it was the fact that they could have gave him a line of shit, like they do a lot of quarterbacks. And said,
I think it was to avoid the Favre.
It could have been
legacy type thing, where you see he was there when Favre in his latter years, and when he left and went to the Jets and the Vikings, and he saw how Favre got treated. And I think legacy is a big thing for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And I also think that he also wanted to win that second Super Bowl. Look, there's like 7 quarterbacks in the NFL that have ever won 2 Super Bowls, and he is not on that list. Yeah. And it's a short list of some of the better quarterbacks in NFL history, and Eli Manning. And so, am I wrong?
I'm not going to slam him because I like the guy. Was he a great quarterback? He was above average. He definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame. He beat Tom Brady twice. The 2 Super Bowls he has was against Tom Brady. And if you can beat that team twice, now I understand that those were the two of the few 3 or 4 years that Brady didn't have a top 5 defense. I understand that. But he still went in and he beat him. And I have to give him that, because how many other quarterbacks can say they did that in the Super Bowl?
Okay, we're going to play a little game here called One of These Things Doesn't Belong Here. Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw, Troy Aikman, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, John Elway, Bart Starr, Roger Staubach. Okay? One of these things doesn't belong here.
Yeah, I would. Okay, I will say that maybe Eli Manning doesn't belong on that list. If you were,
but he does, because he has more than 1 Super Bowl.
I know, but I'm saying if you took all now, look, I'm looking at Terry Bradshaw.
I don't have beef with him. I think
he's a nice guy and he's pretty damn funny. But he's a dry funny, but he's funny. I will say this: Terry Bradshaw wasn't the best quarterback. Okay, he just wasn't. He was surrounded by extremely good players, and he was very lucky. For a long time, he had the best defense in football. In fact, it could have been the best defense football's ever seen. And he had some of the best offensive weapons on the planet.
It's hard.
If Eli had all of that, yeah, he'd probably have 3 or 4 Super Bowls.
It's hard for me to compare that that time frame, just because we're talking a time frame like free agency and no salary cap. So it's hard to really compare. I mean, you're talking about a juiced up baseball type of team.
Yeah, but you're also talking about an NFL that had no rules compared to now, and compared to the last 15 years. Think about
brutal sport.
I mean, geez, it was, dude. I mean, I've seen hits back. I mean, I'm old, so I could tell you I've seen hits even in the 90s that were ignorant. That honestly, when I watch Christian do things to people as a running back, and to think about Ronnie Lott and Steve Atwater and all of those guys that did shit that should have never been done. I mean, Steve Atwater was an animal. Ronnie Lott was an animal. Those guys, they didn't care about you. And then if you go back further than that, you can go back, because I'm kind of a nerd, so I went back way before I was born and watched some of Mike Ditka's games. That man would run you over, get up, step on your hand with metal cleats, and kick you in the head on the way by. He didn't give a shit about nobody. He'd do that to his own player if they got in his way.
Yeah, I think that was because, you're talking about a time when the hate between franchises was so much deeper, because there was no free agency, right? Yeah. So there was no cross-pollination between the teams. And because of that, I think you really could talk about, like, there really was a much deeper hate. Like, there are teams that don't like each other now, but it's nothing like it used to be, because you would, like, it was almost like each organization was its own cult, and that's why I think you would get some of those just hate hitting.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we're at the hour and 5 minute mark, and we've had. I want to know if you guys can all tell me who's still on the show right now. Philip, I know you're here. Any fans that are watching the show right now, let me know who's been on here, and we'll see if you're still here. I want to do something really quick, but I want to make sure that everybody that started with the show is still here with the show. Right now I see 4 people listening, and there were a lot more earlier. So let's see who stuck around. I know a couple of Bengals fans jumped in, and that's okay.
We appreciate the support.
Yeah, thank you. Make sure you subscribe.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications.
That's right. But yeah, I want to see who's still here, and then we'll try to play a little game here real quick for a giveaway. Anyway, assuming that Mahomes is 85% this week, what do you think his numbers are going to be? What do you think his passing numbers and his touchdown numbers are going to be?
Are you talking to me? Or are you
I'm talking to you.
I want to see. I mean, I still think he can throw for 3 touchdowns because he's going to have to, right? Like, you're not. So that, I think that's going to be, he's going to have to put up those numbers.
I agree. I think he's going to probably throw for, I'm going to say he's probably going to get 3 to 4 touchdowns in this game.
He's going to need it.
Yeah, and I think Kelsey is going to be a huge factor in this game. I also think Juju's going to be a huge factor in this game. There's going to be 3 guys on the offense that stand out to me as far as wide receivers or tight ends are concerned. And that's going to be Kelsey, it's going to be Juju, and it's going to be Tony. I think Tony is going to shred some people. If they put him in and let him play this game the way he knows how to play it, he's going to shred some people. He's elusive as hell. Look, man, I'm sorry, but I think he's better than Tyreek. And I think he will be better than Tyreek.
Who?
I think
Tony?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Tony is interesting. Now, I think what we need to remember is that you could say that early in their career, like Tyreek Hill and Kadarius Toney have very similar, right? They're very similar style of players. What separates Tyreek from a lot of guys that are like Tony, where Tony can just run his athleticism, and he can be a successful NFL player without having to do much work. Like, if we're being honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Tony does not have to improve his game to make millions of dollars and to get a second big contract from an NFL team. That might not be in here in Kansas City, but as long as he stays healthy, he's got a large future ahead just based on purely his athleticism. And Tyreek Hill was the same way.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What separated Tyreek from a lot of the guys that fall into that just super athlete sort of genre is that Tyreek Hill spent time working on seriously improving his catch radius and really becoming and dedicating his craft to a wide receiver. And that's what made Tyreek Hill so much more impressive and why he is so good the way he is, because he improved his ability to catch and run routes. Yeah. And if Tony dedicates that same sort of time into his craft, I think that you can have another one of those really crisp route runner guys that, it can be explosive after the catch. If that's
and I agree with you, and I think Tony has in his second season, and I think he had it in his first season when he got injured, but I think he already has that wide receiver ability. He doesn't have to work at it as hard as Tyreek did. I mean, Tyreek was not the best wide receiver his first year in the league, if anybody remembers. He wasn't even the greatest his second year. It was his third and on that he got really good. Tony already has those abilities. He reads the defense very well. His athleticism is off the charts. His yards after the catch are ridiculous. His route running abilities are already there. He's just got to hone in on it a little bit more. But if he stays healthy, I guarantee he's going to be up there with the best of them, especially in this offense. So we'll have to see. Look, we've got 4 people on here. Not one person commented to say they were still on here.
Well,
yeah,
they might just be listening. Maybe they're doing the dishes. I don't know.
Well, if they were listening, then they would have heard me say, "Hey, type your name in here. Let me know you're still."
Well, you don't want to touch your phone when your hands are wet, and then you're gonna get your phone all goopy.
That didn't even come out right. That was not.
You don't want to touch your. You're doing the dishes. and you don't want to
dishes.
touch
Okay, well,
dishes.
when you said it that way, it kind of came out the wrong way, and I thought, man, that's just woo. Anyway, I know there's a lot of single people out there, but anyway, so I know you're here, Philip. Who else is here? There's 4 people on this damn thing. Give me some names. Type in who's here. I'm going to give you 15 seconds to type your name in. I'm watching this clock.
Okay, Will's listening. Here. Oh, he's working out.
Oh, he's at work.
See?
Okay, he's at work. Okay.
All
right, Will. See? All right, I'll give you that.
Will,
all right,
Will, I appreciate. See, I got.
Yeah,
Will, I
thank
got
you, Will. Thank you.
I got you, Will.
Yeah, thank you. I knew you would. You know, Will's a good dude. Scott, I know you're always there. All right, so we got we got 5 people in here.
Scott's sitting down playing like fucking.
Scott, you playing Madden right now? Don't lie. So we got 5 people listening. We got 1, 2, 3 that answered. Who are the other 2 that are in here right now? Type it in. Dun, 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 dun. I'm gonna get that theme song for this.
You really got to improve your switchboard.
Yeah.
You gotta get some better sounds.
Yeah. Well, I got some sounds. I mean, I can play some if you want. All I know is that these guys need to, step up and say they're here or not.
He's playing Red Dead. JP.
What?
Scott's playing Red Dead.
What the hell is Red Dead?
Red Dead Redemption?
Never heard of it.
Okay. Well.
Okay, I'm old, man.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty popular video game. Well, you know, it's like Grand Theft Auto but Western. There you go.
That's what I think of that.
You've got a fart noise on your soundboard, but not just like classic.
Oh, I got buzzers. I got all kinds of shit. What do you want to hear?
I don't want to hear anything.
Here, wrong.
I don't know why you have the Taco Bell bell.
I don't either, but it's there. Let's see. Who else? Who else said they were here? So we got Scott.
There's 4.
Will, Philip. We got 3. So two people that are on here aren't actually commenting. So, all right. Well, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Actually, I'll give you, because you know what? That if I don't give you if I give you more than 10 seconds, that gives you too much time to look it up on Google. Wouldn't you think? It's got to be like an instant answer. What do you think?
This is your ordeal.
Taco Bell.
Look how long yeah.
Well, I'll give you 12 because of the delay. Let me think of a good one here. I had one in my head earlier and I forgot to write it down.
Are you trying to think of a good trivia question? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
How recent do you want it?
I want it within the last since the Andy Reid era.
Okay.
Tell me if you got something. If you got it, just spit it out. I had one and now I lost it because we got into too much other shit and I forgot to write it down.
I mean, I don't know if I specifically said it, but it's pretty relevant to this week's game actually. As where does Frank Clark list on all-time playoff sacks?
Okay. So, where does Frank Clark list in all-time playoff sacks? 12 seconds. Third. Will said third. He was number 1. Is he third? I think he is.
Wow.
What?
He's a half sack off, but...
He's a half sack off from being third?
Yeah.
So he's ranked 4th right now?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's see. One more. All we need is one more.
I don't know. I like Will. Just give it to Will.
All right, Will. You win. Fuck it. It's easier that way.
I got you, Will. Will, you made my point earlier, so I got you.
Wait, Scott said third. Will said third. They both said third, but Scott was later. So I have to go with Will because, well, Scott's at work, though.
You mean Will's at work?
Oh, Will's at work. Scott's playing video games.
Yeah.
All right, well, I mean...
Here's the list. Here's the top 5. It's Willie McGinnis.
Yeah, Willie
Bruce
was a beast.
Smith. Yeah, Willie McGinnis, Bruce Smith, then Terrell Suggs, who was a Chief at one point.
Yes, he was.
Frank Clark. And 5 is Reggie White. Dwight Freeney is 6th. So, you're pretty good.
Reggie White was one of my favorite players, and it was really sad.
He's tied with Reggie White at 12.
It was very disheartening when he passed away, but he was a great guy and a great player. I got to meet him a couple of times, and what a phenomenal guy he was. One of the nicest people ever. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to send you who was the one that won? Will? Will, I don't know if you have DMs on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, if you are, I don't know. I mean, look, man, we got 35,000 followers. I don't know who the hell anybody is anymore. But if you are on Twitter, DM me your full name, address, and zip code, all that stuff, and I will send you something out that I have. Probably something behind me, which I don't like to give up my own stuff, but I will. So I will send you out a signed something. Not sure what that'll be, but I'll send you something. Scott, you're on here every week. I feel bad that, you were playing video games there. But if you listen on Thursday and you jump on the show, I will give you a... did he just flip me off? No. Okay, my eyes are really bad.
That's a thumbs up.
Man, my eyes are bad. Told you I'm old.
I see that.
Fuck.
Well, anyway, I got you.
Scott, if you listen Thursday, be prepared, and we will, make sure you put down the damn joystick, and we will, whatever that
it's a controller.
They
don't play Atari.
Look, I was talking about something. Controller, joystick, whichever one was in your hand, and just joking, Scott. We will throw you in another. We'll give you another chance at a shot at a prize. So, with that being said, we appreciate everybody joining. Make sure you check out on our pin tweet. Go to Foco Sports. I'm telling you guys, you're not gonna. We got another set, a sick bobblehead coming out this weekend. It's sick. I'm telling you, they're only making 222 of them, and every one of these are collector's items. Every single one of them. They make a limited amount. When it comes to Chiefs paraphernalia, if that's what you want to call it, or collectibles, or anything of that nature, these are going to be not only sought after, but worth a lot of money later on. These bobbleheads are all handmade. None of them are exactly the same. So whether you get number 1, which I don't know if you will or won't, because I might get number 1. I might get lucky and get one. But it doesn't matter, because they're all going to be worth money. And we have all kinds of licensed NFL gear. We have MLB gear, NHL, NBA. We have over 11,000 items just on one website that you can choose from. We are the fanatics without the cost. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Make sure you have your notifications on Twitter and on our website, because I will be posting the new bobble that's coming out this weekend. It's insanely cool. And also, we have another one that's specific. That's something that I asked for specifically, and that's going to be coming out probably March. So make sure you'll definitely want to get one of those. So anyway, make sure you have your notifications on. This show is brought to you by Foco Sports. We have everything you'll ever need and then some. So make sure you check it out. And we will talk to you guys again on Thursday,
where we will break down more of the Bengals and have some more information. By that point, we'll see Patrick Mahomes how he'll be on the injury report twice at that point, because they have to report it on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yes.
If he is limited in practice, I would not freak out about it.
Do not.
I'm just being real with you. Don't. Yeah. If you see that he's limited, you should actually. If he's limited, you should see that as a good sign.
Yes, definitely. If it says limited or questionable, don't worry about it. That's the one thing I wouldn't worry about right now. The only thing that's going to set him back, if anything at all, from what I understand, is if he overdoes it. So, which I don't think he is. If this helps at all, Sunday he was walking around the facility. He was doing his workouts. He was doing everything. We did say that on Saturday night. Or Sunday night, I apologize. Sunday night. So, I wouldn't worry too much about Mahomes. I would just pump up the team, get on Twitter, pump these guys up, get them ready to go, and make sure they know that there is no Burrowhead. Unless he's got burrs in his hair. I don't know if he does or don't. But make sure that the players know and that you guys are behind him, and they're going to be just fine. With that being said, we will talk to you guys again on Thursday. Peace out, everybody.